Hello there, welcome to the Demystifying Research YouTube channel. This video is an intro to the deductive approach, a guide for all interested in the field of research. Testing an established theory is the goal of the deductive research methodology. Similar to a top-down strategy, the deductive method shifts from generalizations like exercise is good for you to specific findings like increased mitochondrial function helps to improve ATP production in skeletal muscle fibers. Deductive logic is another name for the deductive approach. You need to start with a theory before you can perform deductive research. Testing these theories is part of deductive reasoning. If there is no hypothesis, deductive research cannot be done. There are 5 steps to deductive reasoning. These 5 steps include examining the existing theory, formulating a hypothesis, collecting data, analyzing data, and lastly, making conclusions such as failing to reject or rejecting hypothesis. Before conducting any research or utilizing the deductive approach, it is essential to analyze the existing theories and literature around the topic being examined. For instance, an existing fact in theory is that all biological life depends on water. Thus, keeping in mind a novel problem set can be created to fill the gaps in literature. The second step is to create a hypothesis to test based on the existing theory. The hypothesis should be testable to falsify or support it. For example, a hypothesis to our previous example could be that humans depend on water to survive. The third step to deductive reasoning is to test this hypothesis by conducting an experiment and collecting data. For our example, we would then do an experiment to study humans around the world to see if they depend on water to survive. The fourth step is to analyze the collected data. In this step, we would analyze the data from the experiment to see if humans actually depend on water to survive. Lastly, the final step is to make conclusions on whether humans can survive with or without water. Since humans cannot survive without water, we would conclude that we failed to reject the alternative hypothesis and reject the null hypothesis. Now time for some examples of deductive reasoning. It is basically broken up into a major premise, minor premise, and the final conclusion. There are some examples that will help understand this in simple terms. The general idea is that all mammals have backbones. Humans are mammals, hence humans have backbones. The first idea of mammals having a backbone is the major premise. Humans are mammals is minor, and based on this, it can be concluded that humans have backbones. Another example is that we know birds lay eggs. Pigeons are birds, and therefore pigeons lay eggs. As we see, the argument goes from general to specific. There are several advantages and disadvantages that come with using the deductive research approach. One advantage of using the deductive research approach is the ability to explain cause and effect relationships between the variables at hand. Using our previous example of birds and eggs, we were able to deduce that if birds lay eggs and pigeons are birds, then pigeons lay eggs. In this sense, we are also able to make broader generalizations about the variables at hand. Another advantage of this approach is that as long as the initial premises that are used are true, the conclusions generated are likely to always be valid as well. This approach also allows us to look at concepts from a different perspective. Doing so can help us generate new ideas and solutions. Although proven helpful at times, the deductive method comes with some disadvantages as well. The conclusions that are drawn when using this method are only reliable and valid if the statements made through the inductive findings are true. Let's take a look at our bird and egg example again. In an alternative universe where pigeons are not birds, then the conclusions we made about pigeons laying eggs would be false. Hence, it is important that the propositions used are correct. Another flaw that stems from using this method is becoming too reliant on it. This may inevitably result in individuals becoming too close-minded and unable to think from a new perspective. When applying this method in the real world, preparing and testing valid arguments can become time-consuming and inefficient. Now let's take a look at some of the issues that may arise when using this method that can be solved. To begin, heavy reliance on known information can also become problematic when pursuing new concepts. For example, when trying to predict the weather using previous knowledge, it has led to poor outcomes due to the fact that it is often ambiguous. This is often the case when hurricanes are misinterpreted. In order to have a successful attempt at deductive reasoning, it is important to ensure that the theories at hand are being tested until proven valid. This will help to determine the accuracy of the model. If the premises are not true, then a valid conclusion cannot be made. This approach works best when you start with a broad theory, then work your way down towards a specific conclusion. Some of the trends in deductive reasoning need to be re-evaluated in order to make a holistic decision. If there are only a limited number of samples used to test the hypothesis, then the statistical probability calculated to verify the hypothesis will be inaccurate. If various different circumstances are used to test variations of the hypothesis, then the probability can be calculated. Thank you so much for listening. If you are interested in learning more, be sure to follow the Demystifying Research channel on YouTube and the Demystifying Medicine Twitter page for related content.